This is Storybook Radio.
Chapter 9. Phoenix steps into Starbucks, his grip firm on the whiteboard tucked under one arm, a set of colorful erasable markers in his other hand. The sharp aroma of freshly brewed coffee greets him, momentarily grounding him in reality as he scans the room. His movements are deliberate, each step a manifestation of the internal struggle to reconcile his thoughts with the task at hand. Today, he has to explain the unexplainable. In the corner, Valerie and Dell sit at a small table near the window. Valerie's posture is rigid, her arms crossed tightly across her chest, her expression wary. Dell, seated beside her, appears more open, his gaze curious but cautious. Their presence alone is both a comfort and a source of anxiety for Phoenix. He approaches with purpose, his breath steadying with each step. "Thanks for answering my call," he says. His voice works their ears for the first time in person. Valerie offers a tight nod, while Dell gives him a small, encouraging smile. Phoenix sets the whiteboard on the table, propping it up carefully before arranging the markers in a neat row. Despite his outward calm, his fingers fidget with the cap of the black marker, a silent testament to his nerves. "This better be good," Valerie says, her tone clipped but not hostile. The skepticism in her voice is clear, and it's a hurdle Phoenix knows he has to overcome. "I know how it sounds," he begins, meeting her gaze briefly before looking at Dell, who gives a slight nod. "But you have to hear me out." He uncaps the black marker, taps it against the edge of the whiteboard, and draws a big, shaky circle in the center. "This is reality," he says, his voice gaining a steadiness that surprises even himself. He adds another circle inside the big one, connecting them with arrows and symbols. The drawings are rough but deliberate, each circle representing a complex layer of dimension. "What exactly am I looking at?" Valerie asks, her brow furrowing as she leans forward. "Because it looks like a doodle my nephew could have made." "It's not a doodle," Phoenix replies, his frustration simmering beneath the surface. "It's a depiction of how our reality exists beyond the dream world, the symbols being ideas suspended between the two dimensions, becoming tangible only through trauma. The gray theory suggests that trauma might be the key to activating thoughts in the dream layer, enabling them to manifest into physical form in our reality." Valerie's arms tighten across her chest, and she shakes her head. "You're expecting us to believe that you... what? Created a being capable of manipulating reality because you were sad?" "Not just sadness," Phoenix counters, his voice rising slightly. "It was everything. Grief, guilt, fear, all of it." Dell raises a hand, cutting through the rising tension. "Valerie, let's hear him out," he says gently. "There's more to this than it seems. I remember a guy named Paragon telling me something similar years ago. He talked about the connection between reality and dreams, how objects in dreams are the same as objects in reality." Valerie shoots Dell a sideways glance, her skepticism unwavering. "You're really buying this?" "I'm not saying I buy it entirely," Dell replies. "All I'm saying, we should listen." Phoenix takes a breath, grateful for Dell's support. He draws two adjacent points on the board, labeling one omniscient and the other me. "This is where it gets complicated," he says. "I didn't just create the omniscient. I gave it life, but it took on its own consciousness. It's no longer bound by my mind. It's free." Valerie's jaw tightens and her frustration seeps into her voice. "Do you hear yourself? You're talking about creating life like it's some science experiment. This isn't a movie, Phoenix." "I know how it sounds," Phoenix says, his tone edging on desperation. "But this isn't fiction. Everything that's happened, the chaos, the shifts in reality, it's all connected to the gray theory." Dell leans forward, resting his elbows on the table. "I majored in theology and science for a reason," he says, his voice calm but firm. "I've always believed that there's more to existence than what we see. Maybe Phoenix's theory isn't so far-fetched. Think about what Paragon said about perception. What if reality is just as malleable as he suggests?" Valerie's expression softens slightly, but her skepticism remains. "Even if I entertain this idea for a second, how do we know this omniscient thing is real? And why does it matter?" Phoenix's gaze hardens. "Because it's already affecting the world. People's lives are in danger, and if we don't understand it, we can't stop it." The tension in the room is palpable, mirrored by the intensity of the storm outside. Phoenix's voice grows steadier as he continues, recounting the events that led to this moment. He describes his role as the artist known as him, the paintings that channeled his emotions, and how the omniscient manipulated those emotions to break free. Valerie's eyes narrow as she processes his words. Her internal conflict is evident, torn between her disbelief and the undeniable conviction in Phoenix's voice. She begins, but her voice trails off. I had enough for today. She gathers her purse, gives the guys an awkward smile before she makes an exit. Shortly after her dismissal, a breaking news story flashes across the television in the corner of the Starbucks. The volume is low, but the headline is enough to draw their attention. Mysterious death in grocery store sparks investigation. The image on the screen shows a familiar scene, the parking lot of the grocery store where Rachel often shops. Phoenix's stomach tightens as he recognizes the location, his mind racing with possibilities. Del turns back to Phoenix, his expression grim. This changes things. If what you're saying is true, then we need to figure out what's happening before it's too late. Phoenix nods, his resolve hardening. The weight of the gray theory, the omniscient, and the mysterious death presses heavily on them.